Welcome to the chapter 239 Jujutsu Kaisen review. There's a lot to talk about in this chapter. I know we're disappointed that Yuji and Higuruma and Sukuna aren't here, but I do think that it's a pretty good chapter despite that. There's a lot of things about Kenjaku we kind of get reminded of, but we also learn. And then a couple of characters come back, like everybody was wondering where Takaba was during the Gojo and Sukuna fight. We have him back now, Hazenoki, and somebody even new. With that being said, if you enjoy content such as this, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. And with that being said, let's get into it. So the chapter starts off in the Lake Gojo colony. One of many colonies that we didn't get to see in this arc, because if you remember, I believe that there were about 12 or 13 colonies in the Culling game in total, and we only really saw about 4. Anyways, it's stated that while the Shinjuku showdown rages on, a girl dashes forward. And we see this girl, who looks similar to Uro, running and asking what's going on. Has he become desperate since the Culling game didn't finish? And with that being said, we know it's Kenjaku continuing his plan from chapter 222. Because if you remember, Kenjaku told Sukuna that he was going to be hunting down the Culling game players while Sukuna fights Gojo. And we can assume that this is going on during the fight because it said while the Shinjuku showdown rages on, so it's during the fight. As the girl continues to run, she points out that all of the rules added so far were to prevent players from murdering one another. And she takes a guess that it was awakened sorcerers attempting to prevent murder in the game, which is mostly correct, but we know that it was our team of modern sorcerers, Yuji, Yuta, etc., who added these rules. She continues to ask if this is why Kenjaku sent the troops to the colony in an attempt to speed up the game. And we're aware that this isn't really the case, as we know that Kenjaku prepared the troops in advance and not as a last resort. But this allows me to ask, do you think that Kenjaku knew our team of sorcerers would enter the game and create rules to prevent killing and hinder his plans? Thus, he prepared for this by tricking the other countries into deploying tons of fodder into the colonies to substantiate the merger? Or did he just gather the troops from the other countries to add into the Culling game and create more chaos, unaware of our team entering in order to prevent the game from happening? Let me know what you guys think. We come back to the girl and she asks Kenjaku what he's after. Why did he keep all these players alive as cursed objects all these years? Just to kill them off again. And Kenjaku's able to catch the girl with some sort of jellyfish cursed spirit, one powerful enough to catch and restrain her completely, meanwhile drowning her inside of it. And he says that the Culling game players are no more than just water and seasoning, and that he doesn't really care for them. This being a metaphor for every player that enters the game being nothing but a sacrifice to the merger. The girl responds to Kenjaku by using her hair to prepare an attack, one that really resembles Ino's auspicious beast summoning, and she shoots a spear towards Kenjaku, and you know Kenjaku just easily dodges it. To me, this does kind of confirm that Ino has an inherited technique, and maybe his bloodline of sorcery goes back further than we know, because we see sorcerers from the past using his same technique. Or maybe I'm just reading too much into it, who knows. But something else I also want to point out after editing is that the girl closes her eyes when she's like fighting Kenjaku, and Ino puts a mask over his face to activate his technique, so maybe that's the same way she uses her hair as a medium for the auspicious beast to come through and use their techniques. But back to the chapter, the jellyfish freezes itself, turning itself to a block of ice over the girl's head, and Kenjaku says he can't help but feel wasteful doing this, which can imply that him having to kill every sorcerer may not be a necessity to create the merger, because knowing Kenjaku, you'd think that nothing would feel wasteful when you're creating the next step in humanity, right? Who knows though. Kenjaku flicks his block of ice over the girl's head, and I presume that it breaks and kills her. As we see that Kenjaku has eliminated her, we know that he can't help but talk his ass off. And he breaks down how exactly he's able to find and track everybody so easily to eliminate them. By being the one to apply the cursed objects and seals onto these characters, it wouldn't be that hard for him to find them. And even if he didn't, every player stood inside of the colonies, so it was going to work out for him regardless. Hazenoki then enters and tells Kenjaku that she died a while ago. And interestingly enough, Kenjaku can't help but talk to himself so much because he's been living for so many years. And I mean, this really does make sense. Kenjaku responds to Hazenoki, asking if they could be friends. The conditions to be a candidate for being my friend are 1. you must be equal to me, and 2, you can't be boring. In looking at these conditions, if we consider Sukuna to be Kenjaku's friend, then maybe we can consider Uraume to be Kenjaku's friend as well. And if that's the case, our boys back there are in a lot of trouble, as they'll be fighting a Kenjaku level opponent and Sukuna at the same time. I also think that this could imply Hazenoki to be pretty powerful himself because Kenjaku's asking him, right? And let's remember, we don't really know that much about how strong Hazenoki is, but I'll go over everything we know in a little bit. Coming back to the chapter, Hazenoki rejects the offer. And then Kenjaku just says, hold up. He pulls out his phone and pulls out Gojo's death on the live stream, which is hilarious. He looks at Sukuna and he's instantly able to understand how Sukuna was able to cut Gojo. And he says, well, aren't you having fun? This could imply that Kenjaku's either surprised that Sukuna was actually able to find enjoyment in fighting Gojo, or that Kenjaku isn't really having as much fun as Sukuna is, because he hasn't really achieved his own goal yet. Both of my guesses could be wrong, but hey. Hazenoki complains about Gojo losing because he knew that Jujutsu High would come for Kenjaku if Gojo won, but now they have to fight Sukuna instead, leaving him to fight Kenjaku one-on-one. And I've said this before, but I really do believe that Megumi fumbled hard with Reggie's team, as he was so focused on saving Sumiki at any cost. He didn't properly negotiate with Reggie and communicate that they both wanted to hinder Kenjaku's plan one way or another. I really do believe that Megumi could have found a compromise in that situation there, and Hazenoki moving from Tokyo Colony 1 to the Lake Gosho Colony just to take Kenjaku out can confirm this, as he really could have had Kenjaku come to him had he been looking to avoid him. Anyways, Kenjaku tells Hazenoki that he likely wasn't going to get help regardless, since he had deployed a barrier around himself and around Shinjuku, and placed countless surveillance spirits to monitor things when he isn't present. One of these things being the total sum of the cursed energy of sorcerers within the area. He states that even if one of Jujutsu High students were to leave Shinjuku, he'd be aware. And tracking by cursed energy even allows for Yuta Okkotsu to be tracked, since he has even more than Gojo. And also, he can see everything that the cursed spirits see as well. Kenjaku was just ready. This allows him to keep track of Maki and Ui as well. And although I don't think that Maki is on Hakari and Yuta's level, she's certainly going to be Kenjaku's biggest threat because her special traits allow her to hypothetically land sneak attacks much easier than anybody else could when fighting Kenjaku. And this matters because almost every fight in Jujutsu Kaisen is decided by some sort of surprise attack, miscalculation, something that the loser doesn't see coming. And Maki has the highest chance of doing this against Kenjaku under these specific circumstances if they're to go out and search for him. However, they aren't doing it yet, as Kenjaku does confirm this. Hazenoki basically says Kenjaku's scared of everyone, and Kenjaku responds by laughing and says please don't tell anybody that. And honestly, I don't really think Kenjaku is, he's just playing along. A sorcerer's a con artist, Kenjaku's BSing here. I think if he really had to, he can take everybody on. Kenjaku launches tons of cursed spirits at Hazenoki, asking him if he really thought that he had a chance at holding him off until they came in the event that Gojo won anyway. And as he backs up, we see that Hazenoki threw a tooth into the group of spirits, causing a massive explosion. One bigger than anything I thought he could generate. This dude's powerful. And as more come out in one direction, he throws an eye at them and blows them up as well. But pay close attention here. Kenjaku was so smart to notice that Hazenoki only had one eye from using the other as a projectile to blow the cursed spirits up. So while Hazenoki had his one eye focused on the spirit he just eliminated, Kenjaku sent more towards his blind spot where he can't see from the eye that he just used to hit his neck and shut off his reverse curse technique, eliminating the reverse curse technique in Hazenoki's body from the head down. As Kenjaku outplayed and defeated Hazenoki here, Hazenoki asks Kenjaku what exactly is the endgame here, and Kenjaku reminds us that he's forcing the merger to take place by eliminating all sorcerers in the culling game. Hazenoki asks what exactly is the merger, and Kenjaku responds by saying, wouldn't you want to see an event you've never seen before? If something interesting is within your imagination, would you not want to see it come to fruition? Is that not what it means to be alive? I found this part very interesting because it conveys Kenjaku's goal of the merger, creating a life form beyond humanity, is something that he just can't help but be curious about and pursue. In contrast to Sukuna, who seems to take the present for what it is and simply enjoy it. Kenjaku can't help but focus on the future and attempt to grasp what lies beyond it. And I believe that this is why Kenjaku will be the final villain, because he has a genuine purpose and a goal he fights for constantly, the same way our protagonists do, and he's truly passionate about it as well. This is why the only time we see Kenjaku not smiling is in the presence of Yuki Tsukumo, a rival of his in strength, yet she sees his passions as unreasonable. Yuki Tsukumo is the antithesis of everything Kenjaku stands for. Whereas she wants to sacrifice curse energy to protect humanity, Kenjaku wants to evolve curse energy to evolve humanity itself, risking it. This is also why he openly condemns Tengen, since she hinders the evolution of humanity despite physically representing this evolution. In a way, Kenjaku simply wants to take humanity to the next step, where Sukuna wants to enjoy it for what it is in the current moment. And I can't help but think that Gege put an introspection of the two back to back for a reason. As Hazenoki dies, he tells Kenjaku to stare at his own shit in the morning. And Kenjaku is like, did you seriously just say that, bro? But Kenjaku looks afar to see Takaba enter the scene, somehow finding him. He yells that he's headed to Hatodake, and Kenjaku is just confused, telling him that we're in Wate. Kenjaku instantly attacks Takaba out of confusion, stating that it's confusing as to why they have sent him out of all people, and that he shouldn't even have been able to find him, since there are none of Meimei's crows around, and the curse energy total in Shinjuku never changed. Kenjaku instantly crushes Takaba, and states that he only put these awakened players in the game to bulk up the numbers. He couldn't care less about anybody but Higuruma. But Takaba comes out completely unscathed, much to even Kenjaku's confusion. He says that he's never experienced anything like this, and his attacks do not work on Takaba. It's like they're forced to not work, as if the effect of his attacks are removed the moment they hit Takaba. And to remind you guys, in case you forgot, Takaba's curse technique is comedian. It's a power that makes anything Takaba find funny become reality. And it was even stated that this could rival Gojo himself. So obviously, Takaba's way more powerful than we may think, but it really depends on what he finds funny. And thankfully for us, Takaba finds anything funny, even the corniest jokes, so he has a lot of flexibility in battle. But against anybody, he's not really helpful because of one major flaw in his philosophy, and it's that red is taboo, which means that any joke that involves blood is not funny to Takaba, and thus his ability will not work. Which means that Takaba can't really kill anybody with his curse technique. He in a way has Toon Force, and this is how he's taking the brunt of Kenjaku's attacks without really sustaining any damage. Takaba begins to speak once more, and he says that there are many exciting moments in the world, but number one goes to when a side character steals the show and a chapter ends. So this is an editor's note. Something I want to slide in really quickly is that I think that Takaba, like his ability, made him appear and take over this chapter when it should be Yuji. Because the quote kind of makes it sound like that's something he think would be funny and cool. So I think there's a chance that his ability broke the fourth wall and made him take over the chapter. But obviously the chapter was placed in a way where it was like Takaba comes in at the end and then the side character steals the entire show. That's dope if that's really how it is. So for all the people wondering where the hell Takaba was during the Gojo vs Sukuna fight, here you go. And now honestly, that last line is kind of badass because he is aware of his jokes. So I'm not sure if he's aware of his technique. If he is, then we might just see something crazy. And if he is aware of his techniques again, it would convince me that he could genuinely defeat Kenjaku here. Not killing Kenjaku off from the series, but more so making him retreat. I do think that Takaba just stumbled upon Kenjaku by accident, as he has a lot of randomness to him. It's pretty feasible knowing how Gege writes. All in all, I think this is a pretty good chapter and it will hit much better for most by the end of next week. Again, I know we're all disappointed that Yuji's not around, but we'll be fine. With that being said, if you watched the review all the way, thank you so much. I appreciate all the support so much. You guys don't even know. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.